Greetings, everyone. I'm Luke Bryan Smith, and welcome to Enlighten, Empowered, Evolve. I hope everybody's doing well. Wait, I know everybody's doing well, and everything is unfolding perfectly. I'm excited yet again because I have an amazing person, amazing woman, Bridget Peeples, that I can't wait for her to start talking to us and telling us more about herself and what she does. But before she does that, I'm going to read a little bit about her. And wow, when I read this, just listen. As a child, her intuition was always strong, but her gift lay unknown for years. As an adult, she started to notice patterns to the information as she was receiving in her late 20s. She started to explore her potential to see if she really could work with the spirit world. Wow. I found that, Bridget found that she could receive messages from those who had crossed over and give those messages to people she had never met. That's amazing. After 15 years of being a psychic medium, she uses her gift of communicating with spirit to bring through details, facts, names, and memories to validate the connection to your loved ones on the other side. She then delivers the healing message they may have for you and letting you know your loved ones are alive and well on the other side. Part of her gift is to provide insights into the journey ahead of you and those who share your path. Bridget works with individuals, couples, and small groups, and she teaches workshops on enhancing our natural born intuitive abilities. Wow, that's awesome. How are you doing today, Bridget?
I'm doing good, thank you. How are you?
I should have asked you that right off the bat, but I'm just so excited after I read that bio a few times. I read it, shared it with people in my home, and I'm just like, they were so excited as well. There's like, wow, wow. So let's just get right into it. I said I wanted to hear, we were talking prior to this segment, but I want to rewind back and hopefully you don't forget that story you're going to tell me because I want to get right into it. I would like for you to start all over and the story you were telling me. But I want to know is when you were young and you found, how did it come about that you found this, that were people starting to talk to you? Was it scary? How did that happen?
I was a little girl. I just would sense people around me. I just always knew. And my mother we had this hutch in our living room, and there was these really expensive old vases. And I still love vases today, but it was from like the 1800s. And I knew it had been passed down from family. And I would play with it, even though I wasn't supposed to. And so here I'm taking off the glass lid, and there's gold and they're just, I can't even describe them. They're so beautiful. And I got this sense of all these people circling me. So to make sure I was not going to break their vases. So that's kind of how it
Wow.
started as a girl. And then me and my friends, like typical kids, like to get into mischievous, stunts. And anytime they wanted to go do a certain thing that we would do that we shouldn't do, I always knew we'd get caught. The days that we were going to get caught, I was always open and kind of the ringleader of the group. But if they were to ask me and I felt that, oh no, I kind of look up and, oh no, we're going to get caught. And every time they got caught. And I, of course, stayed home. And I remember one of my best friends, we've been friends for 50 years, and she got in trouble for shoplifting. And I remember her grandmother picking up her and my sister. And of course, I said to them when they got back, I'm just shocked. And the grandmother says, I bet you were. Figuring that, I was probably part of that normally, but I knew they were going to get in trouble. So I'm like, no, I'm just going to stay home. And from there on, as I got a little bit older, we had a child molester in the neighborhood. And this is one thing I really want to share with everyone that has small children. If your 4 or 5-year-old says to you, this man's a child molester or a pervert or whatever that is,
Right.
think about whose mouth it's coming out of, not what they've heard. Because back in the 70s, you didn't hear a 5-year-old say that. It
Right.
just didn't. So my mom would cover my mouth quite often. And years later, he was touching my best friend, one of my best friends growing up. And her mother says to me, can you believe he did this? And I said, do you not remember me telling you when I was 5 years old, my whole teenage, all the way through high school, about this man and what he did? And
Wow.
she's like, oh my God, you did. And so I tell people, really listen to your kids, because if they're telling you something, you have to first step back and go, where did this come from? Why would they say this? And ask questions. Because I think I could have prevented her from going through what she went through, the abuse for all those years at the hands of the neighbor man. And so
Right.
just things like that. And when I got into high school, I had a child very young. And again, I always kind of listened to my own beat. And I had this child young, and I remember that's when AIDS first came out. And I just had my daughter. I was 16 years old, and my friend's dad, same friend, he ended up getting AIDS. We don't know where he got it. It was probably 1986 at this point. And him and his wife come over, and my mom says, do you guys want to hold the baby? And I just instantly got up and said no and took the baby so he couldn't hold the baby. And my
Wow.
mom's like, that's kind of rude. And when they left, I said, he has AIDS. And
Oh,
again, I'm
wow.
16. So, and my mom's like, no, what are you talking about? That's new. Only, people that are homosexual, I'll just put that word out there, back in
Yeah.
the 80s, mind you, that only they get this. And I said, no, he has AIDS, where he got it, couldn't tell you. But because he was out on the road a lot, so no idea. But sure enough, a few months later had gone by and he was diagnosed with AIDS.
So you didn't know this for sure. You just felt that.
I felt it. Yeah. I knew in my gut. Back then, it was always in my gut. If I was in danger, if anything was in trouble, I would get really sick to my stomach.
You were
Very
getting
sick.
these premonitions, yeah.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
I wanted to elaborate a bit about what you said about children. Yes, children have vivid imaginations, which is a very good thing. And I've learned too to don't suppress that,
No.
because a lot of
No.
times in society we want to constrict and
Yeah.
don't do that. But that's amazing, you know.
Yeah.
And what I've learned is children have, just like certain animals like cats and dogs, that have certain intuitions, that if cultivated, and nurtured, find out, just like they have gifts. So
Yeah.
oftentimes children can feel things about certain people that we can't sense, because we're too, I say, caught up in life, so we are not in tune
I think
as they are.
also because all kids we're all psychic, actually. It'd be surprising.
Right,
You're
right,
psychic.
right.
Everyone is psychic.
I believe it.
When we're born, we are so gifted and we're so farsighted that we actually can see spirit. That's where all those nightmares come from, and
Right,
all those ghosts that we see. We actually do see them. But as we get older and we start having parents and other people tell us, oh, no, that's not real. That's not real. We shut it down. Well,
right.
fortunately for me, my mom worked full time to raise us kids, and my dad wasn't there. He had a brain injury when I was 9 months old. So I
Sorry.
kind of raised myself. It's a good thing. I mean, it was the path I chose.
Right.
But I think that gave me the ability to trust my instincts wholeheartedly and always trust those.
Oh, wow.
And I think kids, even my grandkids, I tell them all the time, they know Nana's a medium. They are not afraid. They're 8 and 13 now, two of the boys. And I talk to them about it because we have, every once in a while, the one that's younger now, he's 8, he sees spirits.
Right.
So one day he was out in our shop and he's working with his dad on a project, and he says, Daddy, could you please tell her to go home? I'm tired of playing with her. And of course, my son-in-law turns around, and he was a naysayer for years. And he's like, didn't know what to say. So he comes in, Bridget, guess what? And I'm like, okay, I'll go out and talk to whoever this is and go tell her to go home, or whatever. But yeah, so there was a ghost. So the kids see ghosts. My children are very psychic too. My oldest son, he's in the Navy, so he probably shoot me for saying this as a joke, but he can see spirit, and he of course doesn't tell very many people that, but he's seen them to where I don't need to see them. I really don't. I know they're there. I can hear them. I can sense them intuitively. So my gift is evolved to where I don't have to see them like you and I are having a conversation. Everything is telepathic and I feel it.
Right.
And when I'm not listening, then they'll hit me with a gut feeling or something. They will stop me literally in my tracks, because I've had some situations over the years where if I would have continued, I probably wouldn't be here today.
Right.
And they've literally made it to where I was in so much pain I couldn't walk, or I would twist an ankle and have to drop and stop, those types of things, if I was not listening to that
Wow.
higher self. So
Wow.
I've been very blessed in trusting my instincts over the years. And, you know, family, as you mentioned a little earlier, family, they all, of course, never want to think that or believe that of their kids, you know,
Right.
because they've been raised to believe that it's just not real, that it's fantasy.
Right. Yeah, programmed that way.
Yeah. And well, like we had that Indonesia earthquake and tsunami back in 2004, I think. I think it was
Yes.
2004. I felt that thing coming for like 90 days. And I kept telling my mom and telling my mom. I didn't know the location because I got kicked out of geography class in high school.
Wow.
So, but I kept feeling it, and I could describe kind of the surrounding area, you know. And so when it hit, my mom calls me and goes, "You're not going to believe this," you know. And so I said, "No, I do. Where did it hit?" She says, "Indonesia." But the wall of water, the vehicle that was on the
I remember that too.
yeah, the
Right.
vehicle.
I remember that. I was watching a special on that. Sorry to interrupt you.
No,
I was
no,
watching a
please.
special on that a few weeks ago. They were recapping that whole thing, and just, yeah, it had, there was a high school and some part of the city that still lays dormant and vacant now because of that.
Because of that, yeah. And I was actually, when I got the impression the first time, I was on a street corner waiting for a friend to go to have lunch for work. And one of those old Volkswagen trucks that's converted to a pickup, you know, and I drove by me, and I had a vision of it with chickens in the back in a cage. And I'm like, kind of double take. And I wasn't far from the water. So we have like the, where I live in Oregon, I live in the Pacific Northwest. So there's a lot of water around us. So I'm kind of at the, what do you want to call it? The Bridgeport or whatever.
Oh,
and I see this. So all of a sudden I get this huge wave of water come at me, even though it didn't, but I could metaphysically feel it. And I went, oh no. So I just kind of said, we need to go eat somewhere else, you know, higher ground.
wow.
And yeah, because I just could feel it. And then
And something happened.
Yeah, that's when a few months later, that's when the tsunami hit.
That's when that happened.
That's when it happened. And so some of my things that I'll predict, time is irrelevant on the other side. So I might get something today, and it may take weeks to come to fruition. It used to be that way. It used to be about 90 days. But now that I've developed and evolved my gift, it's a lot quicker. So we just had an earthquake in Alaska about a week and a half ago. And the day before, I was in my group doing my Sunday morning, you know, live chat. And I said, oh, by the way, I'm feeling a really strong earthquake coming. Don't ask me where. I know it's somewhere. It's not where I live, but it's probably in the Pacific Northwest. And then Alaska had an 8.2 on Monday.
Wow.
Like
You
the very
felt
next
it.
day. Yeah, I could feel it coming. And so I've always had that ability, and it just, you know, takes time. And so to develop the skill. And then you always, you know, you're not always 100%, but you have to remember that no matter what medium you go to or psychic, it has to come through our filter and our experience. And I used to do platforms with other people, like there would be me and two other mediums, and we'd read the same person and we'd all pick up something different.
You can add meteorologists to your portfolio too, as well.
I don't know. Could you imagine though? That would be kind of fun. But
especially if you can continue to, like you said, fine tune your craft and then narrow it down to where it's at. You just, you know, people are going to tune into you instead of the news. Where's this happening? Okay.
I know, where's this happening? Well, there was another earthquake several years back. I don't remember when it was, but I told my mother, my mom's had it show me when we'll see is always what she would say. And I said, there's going to be a really big earthquake. And she goes, where? And I said, well, there's a bullet train there. And she goes, Japan. I go, no, not Japan, somewhere else. I think it was Italy or France, whoever has a bullet train over there.
They have bullet
there was an earthquake. So there was an earthquake there. There was a really large one. And so she's like, she calls me. So there was just an earthquake, and I was like, and, you know, because I was still younger. And I was like, told you, you know, kind of one was I told you so.
Wow.
It was a lot of fun. Yeah, she don't like when I do
so
that.
And the thing is, let that have that just happen only one time. Everybody can say coincidence, but it happened over and over again. It was no coincidence. No,
No.
no.
There's been too many things. I remember in my early 30s, because my husband and I, we've been married 32 years.
Oh,
So
congratulations.
thank you. I was actually worried in my early 30s that he was going to divorce me because I said, I think I'm a psychic. And he's like, okay. And he did the bula bula, and all that fun stuff.
Yeah.
And I needed a sign. I remember going to my pastor and I wanted to study hypnosis. And the
Right.
pastor says, I go to a New Thought church. He says, well, you're not intuitive enough to do hypnosis. And I'm like, what? So I was like, well, I was kind of crushed by that, and I thought, okay. So my husband goes, well, maybe you need to sign. I said, I do need to sign. So you ask and you shall receive is how I look at it.
Right.
So if you want to test spirit and manifesting, put it out there. I guarantee it'll show up. So my
Exactly.
husband and I about 11 days later, we went for our anniversary to dinner. We had a bunch of people with us and we were heading home from the casino and I instantly felt an impact and I went, oh no. So I did a blessing, a prayer of white light and divinity around us in the vehicle. When we
Right.
dropped off the last person, I said, oh, by the way, someone in this vehicle is getting in a really bad accident. And my husband's
Oh,
like, who? And I says, I don't know. This is just what I know. So every day as it got closer and closer, I could feel the impact where my kids were in high school and I would stop at a light and I'd say, did that car just hit us? And they, looking back and they're like, no, mom, you're tripping, and I says,
right.
no, you didn't feel that. And they're like, no. And the night before the accident, I used to do notary work. So I was a traveling notary. It was my own business. I've always been an entrepreneur. And was getting the sign and I'm standing on a street corner and I could feel the impact. And I told my husband, do you not feel that? I mean, I was starting to trip at that point,
Right.
kind of freaking out, trying to
You didn't
shake
know
this
how
off.
to, you didn't know how to interpret and
Yes.
how to grasp what was going on. I can
Yeah.
imagine.
Yeah. So
Yes.
it was really like I was losing my mind. So I was worried he would leave me, but he
Right.
pat me on the forehead or pats me on the head, kisses me on the forehead and says, you need a nap. I'm like, oh, thanks, honey. We have that relationship. So the
Right.
very next day, and I kept seeing a white pickup and a semi truck. Well, he was driving semi at the time, flatbed,
Oh,
and he
wow.
had probably 80,000 pounds strapped to his flatbed trailer of heavy equipment. And that's a lot of weight. So
Yes.
about 9 o'clock, he'll call me to, I drop the kids off from school. He'll call and we'll chit chat for a few while he's out driving. And that morning I knew not to call. It's just something told me, don't call, don't
Uh-oh.
call. Everyone distracted me. And it's funny when I'm involved, spirit literally puts me into a euphoric state to where nothing is wrong with the world. Everything's like Mary Poppins, and I don't
Wow.
recognize it at the time. I'm getting better now that I'm older, but
That's
back
like a
then,
state of like meditation, sort of
yes,
a meditative state, sort of.
yes, very meditative state. And about an hour before I talked to my priest and he said, and I'm telling him about this, and he says, well, let's say a prayer for Brian and the guy in the white truck. I'm like, okay, and again, I totally miss them saying my husband's name. And about an hour and a half later, I get a phone call. This is my husband. He's
Wow.
just been in an accident. White pickup T-boned him at 65 miles an hour.
But he's
And
okay.
oh yeah, he the part of the semi truck, the first four wheels, the tractor portion, the guy hit the back two wheels, sets of wheels, and it busted the drive shaft, and there
Oh,
was no
wow.
steering, there was nothing. And my husband was traveling 55,
Wow.
so the pickup disintegrated on impact.
Of course.
Yes, and my husband, the semi, he said it was like someone picked it up and set it on the side of the road because there was no steering with all that weight on a 2-lane road with ditches, and it came to a stop. And then he got out and didn't see anybody in the driver's side of the vehicle. So he
Uh-oh.
ran to the side and there was a man like hanging there from the seatbelt. And the seatbelt was actually choking him. So my husband had cut him loose and kind of held him up and got him out of the vehicle, kind of laid him on the side of the road there. The man only had seatbelt burns.
What?
Yeah, seatbelt burns. That
Wow.
was it.
So his
And
whole truck disintegrated and he was okay.
yeah. And we did a prayer an hour before.
Wow.
Not that we know about the prayer, but it obviously worked. And
Yes.
so years later, Spirit said that was the impact of what I do for people. That
Wow.
particular accident. And so I was like, but they waited 15 years to tell me that. So it was really crazy. And I remember my husband after that, anything I say, whatever you say, dear, I believe you.
I can imagine so. I
Yeah.
would, I would imagine so,
Yeah.
especially you already had given him,
Um,
a warning, an indication about this
yeah.
earlier. So
Yeah.
and so if he was brushing it off then, and then wait a minute, this happened, I don't
Yeah.
think he'd be brushing it
No,
off anymore. I
even
know I wouldn't.
the
I
Department of Transportation said that honestly, that the load that he was carrying should have busted and went through that trailer, because the flatbed trailer was still traveling 55 and the tractor portion was
yes,
disabled. It was pushing it, and neither one of them were injured. So that was an amazing grace of God, truly, that
wow,
they both
that's
survived that accident. And
yes,
yeah, and
yes,
I'm
especially the
grateful.
person that his truck disintegrated. You would think that
Yeah.
his body would have been disintegrated as well,
You
you
would
know,
think, yeah. And it was an older
or his
pickup.
neck would have been broke. I don't want to even say
Something.
any more stuff. Can you believe it?
Yeah,
Yeah,
no, I'm sure that they probably said you need to go buy some lottery tickets. Say that to that gentleman that was in the vehicle. We never got to meet him. I was hoping to have been able to meet him, but never got to. Just to,
right.
to make sure he was okay. Because, gosh, I'm so sorry, but God used you as kind of a plan to show me that I was really
Yeah,
psychic.
you were part of
You were part of
the
my
play
plan.
that God was playing out for me.
Yeah,
So
exactly. So obviously he
sorry.
signed up for it. I believe that we all sign up for our path, just like you and I meeting. I truly
Yes,
believe that we were guided. I was sharing with you earlier, weeks before, I kept
yes,
feeling
I want
I
to hear
needed
this
to do
story.
wanted to do hypnosis and wanted to do a podcast, or at least my YouTube channel, and start finally using it, and interviewing people. And so I just signed up for Rob Swartz's hypnosis for past life regression and lives between life regression
Right.
weekend workshop. And so I thought, okay. And as I'm waiting for, my links to come in for this, I get a message from you. And, you invite me to be on the podcast. And I was like, okay. And Spirit's like, yeah, you gotta do this, So here we are. So thank you so much.
Right.
And the class that was really interesting, I was expecting more. As a hypnotherapist myself, I also do hypnosis and NLP.
Right.
And I had a hard time going kind of into trance with his voice. However, I was able to go into trance, and I learned a really valuable lesson. So when I did the past life regression, they had us go back to a lifetime that kind of mirrors this one. I was a
Okay.
male. I recognized my son and his wife, and also his current daughter in this life was his sister in that life. So it was really interesting.
Yeah.
Uh,
So can I stop you right there? So
yes, please
for
do.
those of us that don't know, what is past life regression? It's just going into your past life. Is
Yes,
that what that is?
yeah, it goes into a
Okay.
hypnotic trance, and
Trance.
then you go back to visit a previous lifetime that would be the most significant for this current lifetime.
Okay. All right. Go
So
ahead.
yeah, no problem. Some people will do it to connect with a loved one. So there's a lot of different things you can do with hypnosis, a
Right.
lot of things. But for this, it was specifically to go back to this past life. And I did recognize, ironically, a coworker. She was only a coworker for a few months, and because we went back further in that life. And when I was younger, when I came into the vision, I was about in my 70s, and I was a man. And then they had us go back further and further, like 3 times throughout the life process.
Right.
And when I was younger, I was like a ship captain. And one of the, I guess, teammates, or I don't know what to call them, crew members back then, was a coworker I recognized in this lifetime, which I thought, oh my God, that is so weird. What is she doing here? And because she no longer works with me, but I thought, okay, when I tell her, it'll blow her mind. But it's kind of ironic. And then my son-in-law, he was there too. And interestingly, he had no hands in that lifetime. Yeah. And in this lifetime, he was disabled for 8 full years, not being able to use his hands. So the correlation was like very mind blowing for me. He uses them now, and they have their own business that they're starting and stuff, but he couldn't use his hands. So in this lifetime, though, I believe he had cut off his own hands. I think not to be a slave to whoever owned him at the time.
Right. Right.
And so, yeah, he had cut off his hands. And I thought, oh my God, I didn't see my daughter in that lifetime, or my other children. We have 5. But it was him and just certain people were in my life, which I thought was interesting. And then
Right.
they took us to a time back when we were in between lives. So before coming into this lifetime, what I was doing. And the scenario that I saw, I was sitting cross-legged like I always do. And I had quartz crystals around me, kind of surrounded in a circle, and they were all illuminated. And I
Wow.
was just kind of in meditation. And that was like all they showed me. It was a quick blip. And I'm like, well, wait a minute, I want more, And I wanted to know about certain correlations with family members, because we all have family members that we don't necessarily always get along with.
Right.
Whether I'm a very positive person, I believe in manifesting and everyone's highest and greatest good. That's just kind of how I roll. And they're not. So they're part of our biggest challenges, in this
Yes,
lifetime. So
absolutely.
yeah, so I wanted to learn why, and I got nothing. And I thought I was really disappointed and I was really upset, and I'm not a crier, but I had to cry after the experience because I didn't get what I wanted. It was almost like I was throwing a temper tantrum. I
Right.
know, right? And I'm listening to the other people's experience. And there was another lady that saw all these really cool things. And there was people from all around the world on this class, from India, the UK, Switzerland, everywhere. And there was about 70 of us. And she had a similar experience to mine, where she didn't get to see her elders, her our guardian angels in the group that works with us through this lifetime. All
Right.
she got to see was the past life stuff, but not what she's currently working on. And then the man says, well, they're not going to show you what you're currently working on because that's what you're working on. So you have to work through it. And so later that day, I was kind of still sitting in meditation and channeling. And my guide said, well, you begged us and told us no matter how much you begged and pleaded to get the answer, not to give it to you. And I'm like, well, of course I did.
Yes, of
Yeah,
course. I
on that
imagine
higher
so.
level. Yeah, so I had to kind of go, okay. And then driving actually to work this morning, I was listening to some of your music. And
Oh.
yes, the hip hop, I used to love rap music and hip hop, but I was able to kind of tune that part, the music down a little bit and silence it and just listen to the words.
Words,
And
yes.
it's very impactful. And
Thank you.
it thought of a lot of manifesting stuff that I've done over the years, in my family and my kids. I got some amazing stories. And ironically, that part of what I released yesterday, because I was so upset that I couldn't hold on to that anger anymore of not, knowing why I'm going through this current experience and being upset
Right.
about it. And then today, it's almost like you have to cry that out to get it
Right.
out. You
Yeah.
gotta let it go.
Release that energy. Yeah.
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 So I released a lot yesterday, apparently, which I'm so grateful for. I'm so grateful that I didn't get what I wanted, no matter what, because I have to work through this. And
Yes.
so it's just one of those things. And I was like, okay, but it makes room for my next step, which they led me to you without you knowing to have
Wow.
you bring me on here.
You,
So
you know, too, this is totally about you, but I totally resonate with what you're saying. And I'm not just trying to make for a good show, but
oh yeah.
that's why I said I want this to be authentic. But I've had an idea floating around in my head for a while to just start reaching out to people on my Facebook list. And I don't know why the feeling, now I know why. It just became overwhelming a couple of days ago.
Yeah. Yeah.
It really did. It
Yeah.
said, get on that list and start looking at people.
Yeah. So
And I
it's
said,
amazing.
right now? Okay. And so I start doing it,
Yeah.
So you
Well,
did it. You're the reason why.
well, thank you. So without even knowing, because I'd never met you before or heard of you, without even knowing, but
And we're
our
friends
guides,
on Facebook. That's what I'm saying.
yeah, right. And it's funny because our guides know. And like
Right.
when I read for people, you would be amazed at how many times I get messages for their neighbor's friend.
Right.
And because somebody who knows somebody. And that's how
Right.
spirit works. They look for every opportunity they can to get in front of
Exactly.
someone. They just do.
Exactly.
And it's very interesting, some of the stuff I've had over the years. It's like other people go, oh, that's coincidence. Or, oh, that's
Right.
interesting. Like
That used to be me.
Yeah.
But it's
yeah.
happened. Things like this. I apologize again, but I just
No.
have to elaborate on this. It has happened. Miraculous things have occurred like this so often now that I no longer say it's a coincidence. So like you said, spirit has showed me like, okay, you want to still say this is a coincidence? Well, how could this happen? Well, why could this happen? Well, how could this happen? How could you have this on your mind? And then now you're talking to a woman like, how come you felt a bit scared about hypnotherapy and now you're doing it now? And then now you're talking to someone else that does that too. And you've been having it on your mind that in the quietness of your brain, of your mind, in your spirit, that you wanted to talk to a medium. But before I don't want to say, I want to be careful how I say it. I was not opposed to that. I just said, okay, that's their lane. This is my lane. But then it would be like I was over a fence and I see you over there. I want to peek over there, see what you're doing. Let me see. So like, man, let me, you know what? Why suppress my curiosity? I want to learn. I want to, like I was telling you before, prior to this segment, that things that people don't understand, they usually attach some type of stigma to it or, some type of negative opinion, and they don't even know anything about it, and they think, oh, well, that's not true. That's not, well, how do you know? you don't even dig deep enough to find out. So you just label it as evil, or it's not what this book says, so it must be wrong. Hold on a minute, man. I tell people, and I never say anything negative about any religion, because I believe there's a path to God within everything. But yes. I tell people all the time, we have men that write these books that do this stuff. So not trying to discredit anything, but it just leaves room for you to do your own research to find out what resonates with your own soul. And I always ask people that. I was like, what you believe, does it really, just think about it. I know it's hard, but kind of get outside yourself. Does it really resonate with your soul?
Yeah.
Or is it just something that you have to believe because you've been told, or because your mom said go this way and this is how it's always been? And
it's interesting because luckily, like I said, when my mom, she raised us 3 kids alone. We grew up in Southern California. So I didn't have anyone to tell me what I could and couldn't do or think or believe. I was daydreaming all the time. I was like, literally, the teacher says, all she does is daydream all day long. Well, I've learned as I'm older, first of all, our imagination is everything. It is the preview to life's coming attraction. It is. It's the manifestation of things we're doing.
I have a song called entitled Imagination. You got to look at that one too.
I will look at that one too. And I'm a huge believer, but and like I'll be going somewhere, we'll be driving along and I'll be like, oh, we're getting this. So I have a great story. My husband, again, poor him, I love him to pieces. He's awesome. And thank God he's with me, because I'm up in the ethers always, and he's so grounded,
Right.
And he's an awesome guy, but he wanted this pickup truck. This is probably 2005. He wanted this pickup truck, and every day he would call me at work. So he was driving truck still. Oh, there's my truck. There's my truck. I want that truck. And I'm like, yeah, whatever. It's like $45,000. We're talking, 2005. And I'm like, and we've got 5 kids to support at this point. They're all grown now. But I'm thinking, not happening. But every day he drove by, your mind, your mind, your mind. Every time he drove by, 3-4 times a day, he was by his work going to the freeway, So driving truck, he would see it all day long. And so finally, about 3 months later, he calls me, it's gone, she's gone. And I'm like, who? What are you talking about? He says, that truck, my truck is gone. I'm like, oh, you poor thing, is what I'm thinking. And about 6 months go by and he calls me, she's back, and he's all elated, and I'm like, who's back? My truck. And this is a beautiful burgundy F-250 with its raised up, absolutely gorgeous truck. And so he goes, can we please go drive it? And I said, fine, let's drive it, and he's probably thinking, please, say something. Can I have my truck, And so we drive it, and I'm in the passenger seat, and the salesman walks away, and I said, oh, 1 payment and it's ours. And he goes, huh? 1 payment and it's ours, At this point, the truck prices dropped to like 37, I think. And I said, yeah, 1 payment and it's ours. And he's so desperate for that pickup. he will, okay, whatever you say, dear. He took that leap of unconditional, unwavering faith at what
Right.
I told him because he wanted it that bad.
Right.
So we're in the finance office doing the paperwork. Now the payment's going to be like, you guys are going to get like $750 a month, right?
Oh, wow.
Way more, even though we could probably pay it, but that means everyone's eating macaroni and cheese for like 10 years, right?
Right.
At this point. So, but I kept hearing one payment and it's ours. So I had no problem signing it. And the finance guy says, you're the third person. I hope you're not going to change your mind tomorrow. And I says, what do you mean? He says, we've had 3 people try to buy this truck and the next day they returned it. And I just looked at my husband and smiled and I'm like,
because it was his.
That's right. I said, that's because it's yours. And he's like, nah, Dad. And I said, no, really. And he's like, but one payment, it's ours. I'm like, let me check in. Yeah, one payment, it's ours. So we're literally coming down to where we have to make this payment and we're like a week away. Okay, what's going to happen? Are they going to do this, do that? And I'm like, I don't know. I just have some faith. One payment, it's ours. And okay, and he's starting to panic and waver a little bit. And like the day before, we're literally going to have to call on the payment. His grandma stopped by. And usually we just go to her house, drop the kids off and stuff. Well, they had just sold 50 acres to the city where we live. And we had no idea they were doing a deal because I guess a few years earlier, there was a flood. It flooded most of the town and they wanted to put a dike on their property. So the city had bought 50 acres to build this dike, but we had no idea because they're very quiet about money. So she says, and again, I said, no, I see this bow. And she comes in and took him outside and was talking to him. And he comes back in with this pale look on his face. I was like, what happened? Did someone die? He goes, Grandma wants the paperwork for the truck. She's paying it off as a Christmas present. So I said, oh my God, that's awesome. So she wrote the check out, and paid off the truck. She paid off his brothers and his sisters too. And this is what was really interesting. The dollar amount means nothing when you manifest. Dollar amount means nothing at all.
Means nothing. It's all energy.
Nothing. It's energy.
Right.
Yes.
Right.
So my sister-in-law calls me about a week or two later, and our truck was probably 12,000 more than theirs because they'd had theirs for a few years. And she said, so do you think that Grandma's going to give us a check for the difference for what you paid for your truck? And I says, and I look, and I'm kind of looking at the phone like, are you for real? And I said, you do realize the dollar amount is insignificant.
Right.
The gift is what it is. I said, you no longer have a car payment. That is the gift. The dollar amount means nothing. The gift is the same. We both don't have to make another car payment. That is the gift, not the dollar amount. And so she kind of felt stupid at that point, which, she should have.
But that's amazing.
Yeah.
And
I have
and you knew it. Just, I don't know how it's going to happen.
Yep.
That's not for you to figure out, but know it is.
Yeah. And that was the thing. I didn't bother how to figure it out. I just knew because I kept seeing a big white bow draped over it. And then when we moved to our house about 5.5 years ago, one of my sons, he wanted a pickup or wanted to buy a car, and he only wanted to pay $1,500 for this car. And I told him, okay, I'm really fanatical about car safety. So I either want you to have a Volvo, BMW, Mercedes, whatever, something strong, sturdy, right? So I'm giving him the types of cars you can have, Saab, and he looked at the different ones and he goes, oh, I like this '02 Saab. He goes, but I want it for $1,500 in mint condition. And I said, okay. I go, we'll put it out there. He goes, okay. And of course, my other kids like, because they're going to spend a little bit more, but they kind of laughed. But he has unwavering faith. He's a lot like I am.
Right.
So sure enough, I said, well, as soon as he goes, when can we get the car? And I said, Sunday. And he goes, okay. I said, but you have to unload storage because we're moving houses out to the country and help unload storage. I said, and when we're done with storage, we'll go get your car. Well, my daughter had been looking, my stepdaughter, on Craigslist and stuff for a car, and nothing was showing up. And I'm like, are you sure? Nothing is showing up. An '02 Saab is not showing up. 9.5. She goes, no. And I go, I go, okay. So we go and unload everything. I finally give the keys back. We get in the car, head home. And I said, hey, could you check one more time? There it is, $1,500 in '02 Saab.
For the Saab, of course.
9.5. So I called him and said, hey, do you still have that Saab? And he probably thought I was crazy. And he says, yeah. And I'm like, I'm on my way. I have cash. And of course, I told my son when he was manifesting this in Salem, because where we live.
Wow.
So he put the ad on Craigslist the moment we had given the keys back for storage. And he lived around the corner from the storage place.
Wow. Of
Yeah.
course.
I got in the
Absolutely.
car and I used to have a really nice car. This O2 Saab was in pristine condition.
Condition.
Not,
Of course it was.
yeah, it was
Because that's
1,500.
what you wanted.
Yep, it came with four tires, studded tires. It came with brand new ski rack. It came with all this extra stuff for $1,500.
You,
And I
you,
said, can I have the car?
yeah, that is amazing. And it just reminds me, and we were talking about, the Bible and stuff like that. The same things went on in stories in the Bible too, even though all these miracles would happen. The next time people would doubt again.
Yeah.
Just like when they were following Moses, remember?
Yeah.
They kept doubting, even though they kept getting these miracles. And that reminded me of you, because I would say, I was thinking, how could your kids still be doubting when they've seen all this happen? But
yeah. They don't. And, they're better about it now. My kids know if I say something's going to happen, they're really good about, they know.
Right.
I mean, they're all
But it took a while.
It did.
It took a while.
My stepdaughter didn't know about manifesting because she hadn't been in our life for most of her life. So she was really blown away by it. And I said, put it out there. So she wanted a car for free. Well, so her old boyfriend's mom says, oh, here's my Volvo. She needed a wagon. And I said, when you know what you want, it will show up. She goes, you have your own business. You need what?
Have to know what you want. That's right. Be specific, be definite, and don't waver, like you said.
Yeah.
And I totally resonate with everything you're saying, because I'm a avid reader. I learned a new word. No, what am I? A voracious reader. Yes. So I read books by Joseph Murphy, Neville Goddard, and they speak of what you're talking about. They really elaborate on that. Exactly. You're testifying exactly what I read in their books. And that is so amazing. And I'm also reading a current book by a philosopher, author, New Thought author. He's from the early 1900s, late 1800s, named Orson Swett Martin, Mardin. And he speaks a lot on what you're talking about as well. And it's just
funny, not to interrupt you. What's funny about this, I've never read the Bible. I'm not an avid reader. I love reading. I listen to audiobooks now, which has been helpful because it's had me obviously connect with you, draw that in, because I'm not better than anyone. Everyone has a unique gift. We're all constantly learning. We will till the day we take our last breath about where we are, our development, our evolvement. But lately I've been different books, and basically they've just told me to just go and do my own thing. And I'm remembering that at the end of the day, it's up to us to write our own future.
It is true.
To know what we want. And even where we live now, we wanted, up to 2 acres. We wanted specific things on the property. We got everything that we asked for, that we manifested. It took probably 3 months for my husband and I, because he doesn't ever do this, but I do it all the time. But it took us the collaboration of what we wanted. We ended up buying a house on 1.9 acres. The only thing I tell people when you're manifesting exactly what you want, be sure if you want a house, you put the square footage down. Because it hit
exactly. Yeah. Be specific.
And that was the one thing. And I know better. I know to be specific, but I forgot. So my house is smaller than I would like, but luckily we have enough room to add.
Right. Oh, sorry. Excuse me for looking down, but I wanted to find, while I was thinking, while I remembered, I'm sending you a segment that I listened to by Joseph Murphy. I just sent it to you in Messenger.
Okay. Perfect.
Listen to it. And he talks about in his own way, what you're talking about.
I love learning from other people.
Yeah. So listen to that segment. I guarantee you'll love it. I listened to it probably at least 2 or 3 times a month. The same thing. It just, I don't know. You'll see when you listen to it.
I know what you're talking about.
But we're going to wrap this up soon, because I like to keep it within like an hour. But I wanted to ask you one more thing. So when you work with other people, how does that work? They come to you and they ask you things like, can you talk? Can you help me manifest something? Or can you see something for my future? Or can you talk to someone dead? I mean, how does that is
So
there a normal way it plays out or?
So I do a live group where I'll do, just mini readings for people. And I usually know depending on the energy. And I think what people don't realize when you're live on Facebook, for example, I've got maybe 100 people watching, but they've got all their ancestors with them. So it's a lot of energy that I'm picking up. There is no time and space. So all these walls, everything we have, they just don't exist. It's just all energy. So sometimes when I'm in a group, it's a little bit harder online to pick out certain people unless I really focus in. So sometimes it's like watch me go in a pinball machine.
Oh, okay.
But when I'm one-on-one with people, like I have this grandmother figure that's been with us for over an hour now that walked in. So I'm assuming it's your grandmother. And she's just
Wow.
kind of hanging out over here. And I'm like, okay, and she's just kind of watching us do our thing. And she's
Wow.
very respectful of that. So I'm not sure if your grandmother has passed, but
Oh,
this
yes. Long
woman,
time
okay.
ago.
Okay. So extremely respectful. So I'll kind of tell you the energy about her because she's going to step forward. So thank you, Grandma. She's a beautiful soul. She is very, like I said, respectful of people's time. She waits for her time to speak. It's
Right.
almost like she doesn't want to speak out of school. And she's just observing and she's so proud of you. She's
Right.
just beaming from ear to ear. And I don't know if your grandma has come through before for you, but she gives me the feeling that you guys were pretty close when you were young. Is that correct?
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Big influence?
Yes,
Sorry.
pretty big influence. Yeah. I have two grandmothers. So yeah, one passed before I was born and the other one, yeah, pretty big influence. Yeah.
Yeah. And so she shows me they actually are both here, but the one steps forward because even though your other grandma was in spirit, she's still guided with your other grandma to work
Right.
through her to help you. So they both are just so sweet and their energy is amazing. I have the feeling that the other grandma though had a really hard time in life though, is kind of
Yeah.
what she shows me, that things were
Hmm.
extremely difficult for her.
Yep.
And it wasn't the best life or a life that a lot of people would be envious of, is what she tells me.
Right.
And she just says, it was really hard. I feel that just a lot of not really positive things happened for her. And so when
Right.
she left, she had more of an anger kind of when she left, but she doesn't have any of that anymore, which
Right.
is
That's
good.
good.
She's very evolved. But yeah, she's kind of, and is a word I'm looking for is not even judgment, but just she never had the ability to think of her life being better than what it was, if that makes
Wow.
sense.
Yes,
Okay. Yeah.
exactly. A lot of people are still like that.
Yeah. And well, so I don't know. So, but yeah,
Yeah.
that's the impressions that she's given me, is that life is really hard. I feel like there was some battered wife syndrome going on there too, that she
Oh
was
yeah.
mentally and verbally abused by several people in her lifetime, not just a spouse,
Right.
but that people really did take advantage of her and kind of walked all over her.
Yeah.
So when they come through like this, it's to kind of let you know who they are. So they will give me energies and feelings of things that happened throughout the lifetime, like what their life experience was when they were here in the life that you're familiar with. So
Right.
they'll give through information and details like that. So the one grandma very much didn't have a good life. It was really sad. I really want to go, oh my God, you poor woman. She went through a lot, and she was
Yeah.
stronger than everyone gave her credit for.
Yeah.
Truly was. And
Yeah.
she's got a beautiful soul. And then the other grandma is just beaming with joy. It's like, look at him. She's just super
Right.
excited about you.
Yeah.
And
Right.
she's very loving and nurturing, but just says I'm a big influence in his life. And that she was prim and proper as well. And so it was kind of mind your manners, don't speak to elders this way, that kind of an
Oh yeah.
upbringing she gives me. So
Absolutely.
two totally different personality types.
Right. And
Yeah.
see, now that right there, I could not ask you to sum up how does it normally work, but I was just wondering how do people, come to you to ask you purposely, can you contact certain people and things of that nature?
Some do and some don't. Just like your grandmas, like I said, they've been here for the hour.
Right.
I recognize them as you were introducing me. They both stepped forward, and they kind of waited, until you posed that question. But yeah, some people will come with specific, looking to connect with a loved one. Some people will come, and the difference between a psychic and a medium is everybody is psychic, but not everyone's a medium.
A medium.
There is a
Yes.
difference. So psychics can tell you kind of future events, things that are going on in your life, those kinds of things. They're reading your energy. When it comes to mediumship, it's outside of you. That's
Okay.
why they were coming up. So that's the difference. Sometimes you want one piece of information, and spirit, I don't care if it's your guides or a loved one, they got something else they want to talk to you about. So you may say, oh, I need grandma because I'm going to have a pity party. Well, grandma ain't playing that. Grandma's
Right.
going to tell you how it is, just like she did when she was alive. And so some people are really surprised. Some people that don't believe in what I do, I've been, obviously challenged many a times.
Of
And I've
course.
even had a lady, I gave her 3 readings. Something just told me to gift 10 readings, and I did. And I could tell when I called her, she was very disgruntled, kind of. I could tell she didn't believe in it. She had an attitude. And I thought, why are you wanting a reading if you have, and you don't believe in what I do, and you're so set against it, And she was so blown away. She just had a tragedy the night before in her family that nobody could have known about. And so as I'm telling her that her father was showing me this, and he had passed a couple months earlier, and she's like, oh my God, I totally was expecting to be able to tell her you were a fraud and a fake. And she says, I can't. There is no way you could have known those intimate details of what happened
Exactly.
So
Yes.
yeah. So, and again, it's not all about validation, because we're going to get some things wrong. It's interpretation.
Absolutely.
A lot of times people will say, oh no, that doesn't sound right. And then they'll call me later and go, oh my God, on the way home, I totally forgot. So I get that quite a bit too. So.
Right.
So
And that's an amazing gift, and gifts that you have. And like I said prior to this, that's what I feel like my purpose is not only to create different music that's inspiring and encouraging and enhancing lives, but to talk to people. Like I said, I'm in the process of I won't say I'm fully awake, but I'm waking up. So I'm aware and waking up to different things, and that's why I have this eye here. This is my waking
I like that. See, I like that. I need to get one. I've never had one, and I because I have fibromyalgia, so I don't like pills, right? And I don't like pain. But I've been really tempted to get a really unique tattoo and having it designed.
Right.
And it's kind of funny because I know this won't hurt, and I always had this, God, I don't want to go to heaven with these tattoos on my body is kind of what I thought, But now that I'm understanding that, this is just a temporary shell or a temporary.
Oh yeah, it turns back to dirt.
Yeah. And I'm like, I guess it doesn't really matter now, does it?
Your spirit has no marks on it.
Right. Yeah. And I'm learning that our spirit and our soul, not our spirit, our soul can never die.
Soul.
Never be
Soul.
or injured or have tattoos or anything else. We turn back to these amazing light beings. And I'm like, I guess I can get a tattoo now. It took a long time to figure it out.
Wow. So I know I already asked you, I'm going to put links when this video goes live, but just to ask you verbally, how can people get a hold of you or be part of that group or looking or anything like that?
So if they just look up Bridget Peeples, and it's Peeples on Facebook, you should be able to find me that way. Also on YouTube, because I will be adding more to the channel. I'd love to share this segment as well at some point on my channel.
Yes, of course. I'll give you the raw file. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. Perfect. Thank you. I'll have to have my kids help me. I'm technically challenged, but I have better things to do, I think. But
right.
But yeah, they can reach out to me through Facebook. I also have a private group I do that's Transforming Grief from Loss to Life. And I usually go on every Sunday morning at 10 a.m. and just kind of bring through messages and talk to people.
And that group is what again? Excuse me.
Transforming Grief from Loss to Life.
Transforming Grief from Lost to Life.
Mm-hmm.
And that's the name of the group.
That's the name of the group.
Transforming Grief from Lost to Life. Okay.
Yeah,
okay. Life. Yes. And I have those links, and they will be put in the description when this video is uploaded to YouTube. So
I'm
good deal.
excited for that.
Click.
And on Wednesday nights, I do it free. Lately, I've been having a lot of trouble with Facebook going live. So
Right.
what I'm starting to do on Wednesday nights is put my link to a Zoom page that they can
Right.
go on. So I'll spend a couple minutes on Facebook and say, okay, if you guys want to have a more intimate conversation like you and I, and ask questions and get a little bit more information, go to Zoom and I will add you on. So give me about 5 minutes and I'll be there. And so I kind of put that on. And then after the video is done, because I leave it open to public, after the video is done, I take the Zoom link off.
Wow.
After the hour.
That's a good idea. Yeah, I've heard a lot of people experiencing technical difficulties with the Facebook Live. I don't know what's going on there. Maybe it's because it's too many people on there.
I think so. I think so. I think it's just I live out in the country, so the reception's even harder.
Oh, yeah.
The further out I get, the more people all the way from the satellite dish, because I have two types. I have satellite and the other, and I still have trouble getting on at times, but Zoom I can get on easier than Facebook.
Yeah, so. Zoom, yeah.
Yeah, the better platform.
Yeah. Okay. Do you have any, before we go, do you have any last concluding words or message or anything you'd like to say?
Yeah, I just hope that people will empower themselves with education. Take why not? Just try manifesting if you need to, put some things out there. And I tell people the spirit does not understand the word do not. So when you say, I don't want this, they don't understand that. All they get is, I want this. So if you're having challenges in your life and you feel like you're never going to get out of this endless cycle of just garbage happening, you will not.
Right.
You just won't. You have to put out there the positives that I'm done with that. I've moved on. I'm now successful, wealthy, and wise. Put those energies out there and it will turn around and shift. And, not realizing manifesting until about 5 years ago, I do it all the time and just didn't realize it. So all of you do that too. So I encourage you to just continue on your development and reach out if you need to. Yeah.
Thank you very much, Bridget. I enjoyed having you today. And wow, I know it's just very difficult to, I don't even want to use the word cram you into an hour, because you have so many, and I mean this sincerely, so many amazing stories and testimonies and just life experiences to share that, I might need to have you on here again or have a special 2 or 3 hour segment, because you have such amazing, just such an amazing gift. And just, that's what people like to hear too. It's just real life experiences. Like, it's just amazing. I can't tell you how.
Thank you. If I can just empower one person, that's, then we're doing our job. You as well. It's got to inspire one.
Thank you very much. And thanks everyone for tuning in.
Thank you.
Enlightened, empowered, evolved. Love and appreciation to everyone.
Thank you. You guys have a great night. Okay.